Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AstroTea. Before we get into the astrology of June 2026, I want to just share with you that for the past week, I have been waking up every single morning around like 4 a.m. And I have been waking up because there is an owl that is making a lot of noise. It is somewhere near my bedroom window. I haven't spotted it, but I can hear it. And it's at 4 a.m. sharp. It's been every single morning at 4 a.m. sharp. Of course, I am super annoyed at this owl because I don't want to get up at 4. That's not me. Okay, if I'm not an Aries rising, I don't get up at, the crack of dawn. I don't enjoy waking up really early. I'm like more of like a late morning person. I like to get up. I like to take a moment. I want to drink my coffee in peace, and then I start my day. And so every single morning I've been waking up to this owl making noise. And, I've been thinking to myself, can you just like go somewhere else and do your owl thing somewhere else? And of course, I am annoyed, but I'm also not annoyed like a normal person. I immediately started wondering, what does this have to do with the message right now? So I just want to share that whenever you have an owl around you, the message of it has to do with wisdom, because there's something that is deeply coming to the forefront, deeply though, okay? It's a truth that is trying to reach you or trying to get to you, that maybe you need to leave something behind. And I'm sharing this with everybody because I don't necessarily think that this owl is just for me, because I do this work so much. I do feel that this owl has to do with the collective. And so very fitting for June of 2026, because I think a lot of us are in this place where we're still processing, especially because we're processing life, we're processing things that have happened. We have a couple of planets that are ahead of the sun, which means that we are starting to see and recognize things for ourselves. And I think that June is sort of the highlight of all of that. I know this is super random on how to start this podcast, but I wanted to not leave you in the dark and share this with you, because this could mean something. It could mean something for you because the owls can also bring some kind of a dream to the forefront, and it comes with both sides of a dream, the insecurity of making it happen or the opportunity of it, the confidence of it or the doubt of it. And it could be maybe something that you need to put to rest for once and for all. Like, is this something you're going to pursue? Is this relationship something that you're going to, pursue, for example, or are you just going to stop fighting with yourself? These are the types of things that the owl could represent. But let's get into the astrology of this month. If June 2026 had a movie title, I would title this as The Audacity of Hope, featuring a minor identity crisis, because this month starts with us feeling hot, inspired, excited, anxious, and ready to become more of something. We are ready to become more of a feeling, ready to become more of a sort of maybe even a main character. Depends on where it's happening for you all in your chart. It could also just be more towards something in a relationship, the feeling of it. And then the universe basically is going to say, and of course, the universe is going to swoop right in and just give us a couple of moments where it's going to say, it's really adorable with feeling hot and inspired and ready. But, let's make sure that you're doing it for the right reason. So I would say that June is going to give a new sense of confidence, attention that you're going to get, maybe even romance, some kind of big dream or big purpose that is arising or being reignited. And then there is going to be one dramatic reality check. I would say also that June is going to give us one of the best astrology transits that we've seen in years. So let's dive right into the dates. June 13th is when Venus enters Leo. Love this placement. Venus loves to be in Leo. When Venus enters Leo, this is when suddenly people realize sort of an energy that is equivalent to the Devil Wears Prada movie when Andy walks into work after the makeover. It's the same person, but it's a different energy. And it's the energy of confidence, of fun and attention. And, you know, sometimes we need this energy, right? Before we get judgmental about, you know, being seen or wanting to be seen, I want you to realize that as human beings, we need to be seen from time to time. We need to know that what it is that we are doing has some kind of fun or attention, and, you know, being seen in that kind of a way is a validation, and wanting recognition can be normal. It's not all just bad stuff, because I know sometimes in the spiritual community, people see it as something bad, and I disagree with all of that. And the reason I disagree with all of that is because there is a difference between the validation and the recognition that we receive, that one comes from insecurity and one comes from already knowing that you have self-worth, and that self-worth is reflecting in the environment around you. So I want to draw a distinction here. So throughout June, you'll start noticing where you have been maybe missing this validation, this recognition, and it's there, it's right there. So you could also use this energy to your advantage, right? Venus moves into Leo. Take a look at where it's happening in your chart, because you could suddenly feel like you are ready to launch something, or you are ready to be more seen. You are ready to wear the outfit that you have been maybe wanting to wear, didn't know where to wear it. This is the time now. Maybe you're ready to take that group fitness class. Maybe you're ready to audition for that thing that you have been wanting to audition for. And so you may have been talking about it for a while, but now with Venus in Leo, there is that nice boost in confidence. June 14th, the new moon in Gemini. This is when we get a brand new energy. Gemini is a conversation. Gemini is ideas, it's stories, it's questions. It's putting all the information together, and we are being curious. And very often, Gemini can also represent gossip. So you could have, in the coming weeks after this new moon in Gemini, have a lot of new updates and gossips just flying around, screenshots flying around, people telling you things about another person. So this is sort of a moon where you will start to get maybe some answers, or some answers you didn't think that you asked any questions about, but there is information that is going to be flying around. So I think that, you know, we are going to be sort of like very surprised at the information that comes towards us. There could also be maybe themes of decision making, themes of sort of small actions that are leading to the sum of a greater goal that eventually changes everything. So this Gemini sort of new moon is a communication that is coming, but also a socialization that's coming with it. There is maybe a new socialization that comes with this new moon in Gemini as the weeks unfold. So definitely pay attention to that. June 16th, Venus trines Neptune. This is really a magical part of how this movie is unfolding this month, because this is sort of where the soundtrack gets a little emotional. We're getting into the magical sort of apex part of a movie. The lighting sort of gets a little softer, and everyone starts believing in the signs that the universe has given to them. So Venus trine Neptune is a very beautiful energy. It's an energy where we can feel spiritual, romantic, creative, and inspired. This is sort of the astrology of seeing what's possible unfold in front of us, or seeing the possibility of things. We're dreaming up something, so you could definitely be having a lot of dreams during this time. Pay attention to what type of dream you could be having here, because all of that could be a sign truly from the universe. So it's a moment, I would say, that if I were to like give you a little bit more of context here, there is a moment in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, the movie, when Walter stops imagining his life and starts living it. The best use of this energy is dreaming. The worst use of this energy is delusion, because Neptune can make red flags look beige. Okay? Everything looks beige. Everything sort of blends in. And beige can look romantic, yes, but you want to pay attention to this, right? So don't hand your, wallet, your common sense, and your life savings because somebody told you they're your soulmate after 2 text messages. I want you to pay attention to this. So it's a great energy, but it's also an energy where you want to pay attention because the universe sort of has a little bit more in store for us. So dream up something, make it a possibility, but also use your common sense and use your discernment when it comes to this particular transit, because a couple days after June 17th, Venus opposes Pluto. Venus will be in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius. This is a powerful one because now there is a little bit of a plot twist, okay? Venus opposing Pluto. This is where the universe grabs your phone, opens up the app you have been obsessively checking. You know which app I'm talking about, okay? We're all on the social media platforms. And the transit exposes comparison, insecurity, obsession, the inability to attach. So it's not that you're going to be able to attach easily, but there's sort of a power struggle and insecurity. Suddenly somebody else's success feels very personal to you. Someone else's engagement feels very personal to you. Someone else's vacation feels very personal to you. This is where we have to pay attention. Sometimes the planets can really grab all of us in this kind of a way. You could also be noticing that somebody else has suddenly more followers. These are the types of things that you could expect here with this Venus in Pluto opposition, because it has to do with Venus in Leo, the stage, opposing, one's personal dream in some kind of a way. It's kind of giving a little bit Mean Girls. It's kind of giving like when Regina George walks into the room and everyone immediately starts evaluating themselves, right? Pluto wants you to ask yourself, why is this important? Why does their success threaten you? Why does their happiness upset you? This is the kind of thing that you want to pay attention to. And there's a lot of gold in all of this, right? Because Pluto is one of those planets where if we dig in a little bit deeper, we will expose something that frees us eventually, but not every Pluto transit is the promise of that. Then moving forward to June 25th and 26th, that's when the Sun squares Neptune. We are now going to be entering sort of a looking for the information montage. This is going to be sort of like a scene where the protagonist ignores every warning sign. You know exactly the scene that I'm talking about. Like the audience is yelling, "Don't go there!" But the character goes in there anyway. That's the Sun square Neptune kind of feel. Why? Because the Sun illuminates, Neptune brings some illusions, some curtains, some fog, mixed signals, confusion, assumption, wishful thinking. It's not a bad transit, okay? It's just a transit where the facts do matter. So you have to double check the facts. You have to double check the timelines, the expectations. Expectations, I would say, is a big one, okay? Definitely double check expectations. Everybody, if you're listening to this, I want you to write it down, the date. Again, it's June 25th through 26th and really well into July, because you want to make sure that you're double checking everything that you're doing, because Neptune likes to fill in the missing information with imagination. This is kind of similar to when you go into, ChatGPT and you're typing something up and it always has an answer for you, but it hallucinates often. ChatGPT, like if you're working with ChatGPT, you're dealing with a lot of hallucinations. It's not always factual. It draws the information somewhere because it's got to give you an answer. That's sort of like Neptune. It's filling in the missing information. And the imagination is wonderful, but it's wonderful until it starts becoming maybe a legal document. Maybe it starts becoming reality, right? And that is where the universe now swoops in and gives us a little bit of a identity crisis, because June 29th, the full moon in Capricorn, it comes in full. And Capricorn arrives carrying a clipboard. This is somebody walking around with a clipboard. This is the moon that is not interested in your vision board. Not at all. Okay. This is the moon that's interested in give me the Wi-Fi and show me what you are planning to do, not what you are conceptually trying to manifest, but like, is it done? So it kind of like, I'm trying to give you sort of like an idea of what this looks like. Okay. So if you've ever seen the movie Rocky, nobody cares about Rocky talking about becoming a champion. Okay. This montage matters because he trained. The action matters. The work matters. And for some people, this full moon brings that kind of a promotion, that kind of achievement, and that kind of a launch. Now, for others, this is going to be a rejection. It's going to be a reality check. It's going to be some kind of a delay. Okay. Now, rejection is often redirection wearing an ugly outfit. Nobody likes it when it arrives. But I want to remind you that when you're putting on an ugly outfit, you could also just take it back off. Okay. You can take it off and just goodwill it. You know, years later, we usually understand when something is happening, or months or weeks later. I would say now it's more like months and weeks because of how fast the universe is moving, how fast we all participate in it. But I just want to remind you that no matter what it is that you're trying on, you can always take it off. So there is that. So it's not the worst full moon, I would say, but it's definitely one of those full moons where you want to pay attention to the reality check that you're receiving and make the best of it. Not everything is going to, work out the way that you imagine it. And this is sort of like that reality check with this Capricorn. Capricorn is there to remind us that success comes in all different ways. It's not just in one way. And of course, that same day, we have Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and it begins. So this Mercury retrograde begins at the same time, and suddenly your past decides that it's got to come back. And I say the past wholeheartedly here because it's in Cancer. It's an old friend, an old situation, an old memory, an emotion that you thought that you worked through. It could be an old crush, if you had a crush on somebody, an old version of yourself that you are remembering, and you're cringing as you're remembering this old version of yourself, a behavior or something that you said. These are the types of things you could be working, through. But this is more or less of like an ex coming back. And it's more like, why are you still carrying that baggage? Because the downside of a Cancer energy is going to be emotional baggage. In some cases, it is also going to be an inability emotionally to let go of something. So this Mercury retrograde is going to ask all of us to unpack things. And then right at the end of the month, June 30th, Jupiter, the planet of abundance, it enters Leo. Of course, it's all perfect divine timing, because now this is a big one, right? It's going to be the next sort of 12 months of Jupiter in Leo. We will talk more in depth about this because I am still working on your guys' summer predictions, and this is how sort of the summer is going to begin for all of us. This is sort of like a moment where you'll start to begin to notice that you are walking towards a completely different future. Jupiter enters Leo. This is a big time of confidence and courage and visibility. And if it's not those things at the very sort of beginning stage of this, Jupiter in Leo, it's going to be a creative moment. It's going to be a moment of creativity. I would say that this Jupiter in Leo moment is going to be like The Greatest Showman. when P.T. Barnum stops asking for permission and starts building the thing. Okay, that's Jupiter in Leo. Not perfection, but it's belief. So there is going to be like a willingness to take up space, a willingness to be seen, the willingness to kind of risk looking foolish and cringing over yourself a little bit, but you're going to take that step anyway, because every person who has ever done something extraordinary looked ridiculous before everyone understood what they were doing. And that is, I think, that is going to be like the opening into, July with this Mercury in Cancer. Together, we're kind of working things out because we got to leave the past behind. Whatever is coming up from the past, we got to leave it behind, right? We have to be able to have the courage to move forward. And I think that is what this Jupiter is going to be taking a look at. So the story of June looks a lot like, to me, an inspiration, starting to dream something that's bigger. Your insecurities will continue to get exposed here. A reality check on your plans. The past comes knocking, okay? And then you are opening up some kind of a new conversation with yourself here. The question that I believe that June leaves us with is going to be simple. If you stopped comparing yourself and your story to somebody else or everyone else, what would you finally have the courage to create? I think that is going to be the biggest one here. Now, to finish today's podcast, I am going to be doing something that I haven't done in a long time, which is I am going to be drawing tarot cards for all of the signs, but we're going to do it in categories. So we're going to go for the air signs first. If you are an air sign, then what is your tarot card? Let's take a look. Oh, it came flying out. Let me take a look. Hold on. Ace of Cups. Wow. It is the Ace of Cups. So for all the air signs, I would say that a couple of things are coming up for me here. Ace of Cups, you might fall in love with someone or something. The Ace of Cups is a beautiful new emotional feeling that rises. One of the most beautiful cards in the tarot. It's an open heart. It's an emotional healing of some sort, but it's receiving it rather than forcing any of it. It's there. And in love and in career, this can indicate loving what you do, loving who you're with, falling in love or deepening some kind of intimacy. Your heart oftentimes is awake when this card falls out. So beautiful new card. I would say try to keep your heart open. If you are someone who feels like you're constantly trying to guard yourself, this might be the month where you're going to stop doing that. So that is the message for all of the air signs. For all of the fire signs, we have the Page of Cups. Wow, the Page of Cups is a positive card as well. And it's another cup card, which is very interesting because it's very different from the Ace of Cups. In the Page of Cups, okay, there is a person that's holding a fish that suddenly pops out of the cup. It's a strange image, but it's on purpose like that. Expect the unexpected. So for all fire signs, you're going to get good news, a message, an invitation, an emotional sort of invitation even. Somebody may be declaring their emotions to you, some kind of synchronicity. And you might end up saying to yourself, wow, I didn't see that one coming. Not at all. But it turns out being something super positive. So in love and in career, this is going to be either an opportunity. I think spiritually, this can symbolize an unexpected sort of spiritual experience that changes the way in which you view your life. But it's just the beginning. It's sort of like a moment to wake up and give you sort of an emotional validation that you were looking for. Maybe you didn't even know you were looking for it. So for all the fire signs, it is going to be a very big moment for you. Now, moving on to all of the earth signs. Wow. The earth signs, I feel like you guys are going to be in a place where finally you are moving forward. If you felt like you were stuck, I pulled the Knight of Swords. Now, it's sort of like a card where you see somebody who is rushing or in a moment of momentum. And it could be that you feel like that you have talked about this long enough. So now you're like, let's go. Okay. So if you're an earth sign, you are no longer going to be waiting or hesitating. Here are the themes for you: action, momentum, determination, ambition, pursuing something or a goal. This can also come in with fast moving phone calls, emails, decisions, announcements, conversations, or things that felt stalled that suddenly gain momentum. So in love and career, this can look like a new direct conversation. This can look like sort of a launch of either in career or in love with a relationship or relationships. And overall, I think that the answers become very obvious. So do not hesitate is the message for you. And then lastly, we are going to be taking a look at the water signs. For the water signs, I just pulled the Seven of Swords. This is a very misunderstood card, I feel like, in the tarot, because most people immediately jump to somebody is lying. And yes, sometimes this can mean deception, but the card is much broader than that. In the image, there is a figure that is sneaking away with 5 swords, leaving 2 of the swords behind. And the question is, why are they sneaking? That's where the meaning lives. Okay, so the core meaning of this card is about strategy and independence and secrecy and self-preservation. And oftentimes I feel like this card comes up for people that need to be considering a different path. So I would say that I'm not telling everybody my next move is the theme. Not because it is wrong, okay? But because we are, especially right now, in a time where not everything is ready to be shared because people are studying other people's strategies. So this is going to be really important for you guys, because sometimes I would say that the wisdom with the Seven of Swords is going to be like a moment, for example, where you're quietly applying for a new job before resigning, or you're keeping a business idea private until it's developed, or you're leaving a toxic situation, toxic relationships, or relationship without announcing it because you have to protect yourself. At some point, you are protecting your plans from unnecessary opinions. So this is a card where you have to move in silence. And that is the message for all of the signs. What a powerful month, everybody. Thank you so much for being back. Thank you for listening. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody who is now downloading the podcast from Prague. Thank you so much for downloading my podcast. I just wanted to give you a warm welcome. If you are looking to support my show, there's a couple of ways in which you can support my show. You can buy me a coffee. That information is in the show notes below. And you can also follow me on Instagram or on TikTok at Island Aura Sky. That is what the name of the handle is. So if you type in Island Aura Sky, you will see the page come up. And on that page, what I do is I give a lot of Venus transit updates and other things that I discussed that are really important to astrology. So you can follow me there and stay connected with me. I also post on there like when I am putting out the podcasts and just kind of interact a little bit more on a personal note. You can also start following me on my new YouTube channel, which is the AstroTea YouTube channel. So you can go into the show notes below and all of that information is available to you there. Wishing everybody the best month with the best energy outcome. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next podcast.